Speaking of Courage podcast. We're back, dude. What's going on, Chase?
Not a whole lot. Same old stuff, man.
Feels like it's been a year, huh?
It does. It feels like it's been a long time since we've...
You guys got to get some comments on this, dude. He wants to retire. You got to get some love out there, Chase.
Yeah.
Got to get your motivation or what?
A little bit. No, just trying to get some views, you know, get... It's a lot of work, so yeah, it'd be nice to get some attention on the people like we're doing. Yeah, just changed, so it's all right. Yeah, busy, a lot of work, so, you know, it's hard to find time on this side a little bit.
Yeah, definitely, right?
Yeah.
All right, so where are we headed today?
We're doing a Vietnam episode again. This will be our second Marine Corps we've done. We just did Jack Lucas, the World War II, but we're over 20 episodes, and this will only be our second Marine here. Yeah. So kind of bringing it back to that.
What is your favorite era or favorite war stories or like the whole culture of...
It's kind of hard to say.
Each one has its own like little culture, right?
Yeah, but I go through like phases. I mean, growing up, when you get into military, I think most people are just World War II. It's kind of the big thing. I like Vietnam because it's more relatable. You know, it's the same music, it's the same style.
Is that why it's relatable?
I think so. Color footage. It's your uncles and your dads more than your grandpas and great grandpas and stuff. I like Korean War a lot just because it's the forgotten war. You know. Not necessarily a lot of attention on that, so I kind of got into that. From there, I'm like, hey, if we're going Forgotten Wars, I like, you know, the Philippine Insurrection and the Spanish-American Wars, so just kind of those ideas. I'd change depending on what day you ask me, I suppose. Really? Yeah, I kind of like them all.
Okay. So, can you hear my mic? Your favorite changes?
I get interested in different topics, and I'll kind of go down the rabbit hole for a couple months.
So if it's like uniforms or weapons or...
No, it's always like that? The totality of it. It's just kind of what era I'm in or what kind of thing I'm in. But
it just changes all the time.
Because like I said, with me, it's always... I like the stories of the common man, you know, not necessarily the obvious hero or the big guys or the, you know... I've never been as interested in the generals. I'm always interested in the common soldier type deal. Right. And then I like, I guess, the forgotten ones to a degree, the guys that are looked over sometimes.
Yeah. That's interesting, dude.
The everyday courage.
So Vietnam is the one for today.
Vietnam's the one for today, and on that's kind of the reason we're doing this. It's interesting because if people that don't know anything about the military, they can't name a Medal of Honor recipient. But even within the military community, you know, you'll know your Audie Murphys and your John Bassilones and things, but even Medal of Honor recipients, many of them are forgotten. So
it's so crazy, right?
Yeah. So as I'm doing research and I'm reading, trying to find, you know, hey, who am I going to do next? Sometimes I'll start reading about someone, and there's the only information you can find is their citation, or 20 different articles that just glean info from the citation. And it's like, wow, this guy earned the Medal of Honor, and that's all the recognition.
And
he
then
gets.
you just in a few, well, not a few, most of these episodes. You hear the stories and you're like, everyone should be a movie.
Exactly. Yeah.
How are these guys' names not just like emblazoned everywhere?
Right.
Like there's not product. Like you would think products would want to get involved with. There's no clothing that you have the Roots of Fight clothes with
a lot of guys
Ali and stuff like. I know they're like the grandiose.
Yeah, a lot of the guys don't want to do that, and they wouldn't want to do that. It'd be nice to see some more attention to them so people understand.
But how do you do that? What would you like to see?
Well, that's kind of what we're trying to do here, I suppose. You know what I mean? It's just, like I said, for me, when I do research, I read books, I go online, I go to Ancestry.
Obsessively, too,
I go to newspapers.com. I'm talking for the show here,
I know.
And it's hard to find some of the stuff. So for me, when I'm looking at today's recipient and I can't find anything, I'm like, that's just not fair to me, to his memory and to what he gave and to what he did. Yeah, that makes sense. So at least if someone types his name into YouTube now, there'll be something that somebody can learn from it. So that's all I'm trying to do, I guess, on our part here.
So is that why you shy away more from the more famous
to a degree, yeah.
It's already been
and they definitely deserve to be stored. I'm planning a big Audie Murphy, probably 2-parter or 3-parter, because just a lot of people don't know the background on him. But I'd like to see some of the guys get a little more recognition that, for God's sake, they earned the Medal of Honor. The least we could do is talk about it.
And you got these family members sitting there with a medal.
Right.
And it's like some of these people that we've been in contact with don't even know the detail.
The significance.
A few of the episodes, some of the family members were like, wow, I never even heard that. You know what I mean?
They've read the citation, but they don't know the background to it, and they don't know the totality of it, and they don't know what all it encompasses. It's one thing to say a guy charged a machine gun nest, but to a civilian who doesn't know anything about the military, they don't know the difference between a bolt-action rifle or a machine gun.
Well, dude, not only that, it's knowing the backstory of what led to that moment. You know what I mean? You think of, Riverside, Ran, tornado bullets.
Yeah.
Duran.
Duran was one of them.
And you hear the story and the backstory of where the family came from.
You're thinking of Villegas.
Sorry. Yes, sorry about that. Yeah, Villegas. And you're like, his family's picking oranges back in
Right.
Riverside, and this kid, and you see his action, and it makes sense when you hear his backstory.
Right.
Like, oh no, of course he did that.
And that's part of the thing too. When you read a Medal of Honor recipient citation, you know what you're reading, so you already have this expectation of heroism.
Yes.
But if you flash back before that, no one would have suspected most of these guys, like
Yes.
Roger Young or the other people. So that's why, to me, it's so powerful.
That's a great point. When you read it, your expectation is reading some
and
hero
you,
stuff.
and you take it for granted,
Yes.
that everyday courage and all the other
Right.
things they're going with.
So who's the guy today?
So today we have a gentleman by the name of Oscar Palmer Austin, who was born in Nacogdoches, Texas, and then he grew up in
Nacogdoches?
Nacogdoches.
I've never heard that.
It's in a couple movies.
Is
These
it?
are John Wayne movies
Oh,
and
okay.
stuff. Yeah, if you like old westerns,
Yeah.
you'll have heard the name.
Oscar Austin.
Yeah, but he didn't grow up there. So early on, before he was old enough to go to school, he and his family moved to Phoenix, Arizona. His parents were going through a divorce. So
Okay.
he's African American, so he's living with his mother. His dad and mom separated. So he's got an older sister, and he ends up having another brother and another sister. So kind of growing up with them in the Phoenix area. So kind of deserty like us, that low income kind of a lifestyle. But he's growing up again. This is going to be that baby boomer generation.
What year?
He's born in 1948, which is the same year my
wow.
dad's born. So these are the guys that are the children of that war generation, right?
Yes.
So even if your dad or your uncles and everything didn't fight, the rest of the countries did. So that's kind of what that life is like. When you go to the movie, you're watching the John Wayne movies. When you go out, you're seeing all this patriotism and all these things.
Americana everywhere.
Americana everywhere. This is the wonder years,
Yeah.
when you're watching those good neighborhoods, running around, playing, camping,
4th of
fishing.
July parties.
Yeah, you can go out and just come back when the lights are off type deal. It's kind
Yeah.
of that idyllic to us life.
And he's an African American guy growing up in this time.
Correct.
What's that like at this
Well,
point?
as you know, there's a lot of civil rights struggles throughout the country, not to downplay it, but in the Southwest, it wasn't as bad as it was in the South. So he's probably fortunate that he moved from Nacogdoches to Phoenix, Arizona.
Get away from a lot of the deep-seated stuff.
Right, and it's still going to be there, but there's not as much ingrained in the culture.
Right.
Woody Strode, he was a Hollywood actor. He's one of the greatest actors, one of my favorite actors. My wife knows who I'm talking about. He's African-American. He grew up in California, and he said he never even knew about racism until he went to play football and went to the South, and he's like, holy crap, I had no idea what my brothers were going through. And that's not to say that people out here weren't suffering and dealing with that, but it's just a whole
On a different
level.
Yeah.
So moving from Texas to Arizona, and unfortunately, again, I don't have a lot of background on his feelings or his thoughts because there's so little information on him. But you can just understand what the rest of the country was going through and kind of picture him and put him in that place. Right?
A lot to overcome before you get to the overcoming part.
Right. And he went to Booker T. Washington Elementary, so, he's going to that type of school. He ends up going to high school in Arizona. He's going to graduate high school in 1967.
What do you mean Booker? What type of school? Is that a black school?
Generally, those are going to be, but he's going through school during this time of upheaval, right? So again, just like how Vietnam's in the background, that's going to be in the background of his life. We don't know what his thoughts and feelings were.
So this is when all the civil rights marches and
Correct.
Martin Luther King and all that stuff was going on.
Right.
Okay.
This is the heart of the
Intense.
civil rights movement is during this time.
Wow.
There's also a lot of movement from African Americans out of the South, and they're changing their dynamic and things.
Yeah.
So in that, he's living in this single parent household in Arizona, Phoenix area. He's helping support his mom. So as a kid, he's growing up with this going on in the background, but he's also, regardless of the bigger picture, you still have your smaller picture of your life. He's got a struggling mom. He's got his brothers and his sisters, so he's going to work to help for them, right? He's going to work at the laundromat. He's going to work at other places to try to save money.
Dad's out of the picture?
Dad's out of the picture, it seems like, so he's actually helping support his family. So he's, again, learning responsibility at that young
Building character
age.
early.
Exactly. And while he's in high school, that's the topic, right? You have the civil rights, and then you have the Vietnam War. He's graduating in 1967, so this is right at that time. People are dividing along these lines, kind of like now. You're pro-war, you're a murderer, or you're anti-war,
Is this about
you're
the
a
time
hippie.
Muhammad Ali avoided and everything?
Correct.
Okay.
This is all in that
this is
same time frame.
It's a hot time politically and socially.
Right. So Oscar, he actually takes the side, regardless of everything else is going on. He's a patriot, and he wants to serve his country. He wants to join the military. Some of the other people that went to high school with him, they remember saying that he was very eager to join, he was eager to serve his country, and he was eager to fight. His only drawback is he was worried about his mom, because, he's
Who's
kind
gonna
of...
take care of her?
Who's going to take care of his mom if something happens to him? But he's going to... his patriotism and his love of country is going to override that, in a sense, and he's going to end up enlisting in the Marine Corps. Now... in Vietnam, during the 1960s, the late 1960s, they used to have a saying, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, everybody was fighting in Vietnam. Even the Coast Guard was fighting in Vietnam. But if you join the Army, you might get to pick your job. You might end up in Germany. You might end up in Vietnam. You might end up in Texas. If you were a Marine in the 1960s, you were either in Vietnam, going to Vietnam, or had just got home from Vietnam. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Why was that?
Because that was their sole job, was combat. So they were all rotating over. So we don't know a lot about Oscar, but we can glean from him that at the height of the war, at the height of all this turmoil going on, all the height of all this, he chooses not only to join the military, but to join the United States Marine Corps.
The most active in this war.
Almost guaranteeing that he's going to fight, right? That he's going to end up in Vietnam. So he joins the Marine Corps in 1968. He wants to serve, but he also wants to provide for his family, because this is, just like it is today, regardless of your other reasons, the military is going to help you in life, right?
Yeah.
So he sees this as a way to serve his brothers and his sisters and his mother, as well as serving his country. So it's kind of a win-win in that sense, if that makes sense.
He gets to go represent himself, everything.
And he's going to come out, he's going to have those benefits, he's going to do all those things, and he's going to come home wearing that, what most people think is a fancy uniform. I'm not a fan of the Marines' uniforms, but they think they have the best uniforms. So he ends up going to boot camp in San Diego, MCRD, like a lot of our friends that were in the Marine Corps Recruit Depot in San Diego. You've seen Full Metal Jacket, right?
Yep.
That's one movie.
Yes,
okay,
I've seen it.
I got you one movie. Okay, cool. Right. So that is based on the Marine Corps in the 1960s.
Oh, so that's
what he's going to be going. That's exactly what that was. So, I mean, they added a bit. They're not going to be choking people and punching people and stuff, but the intensity of that training, and we've talked about it before, they actually shortened Marine Corps boot camp during Vietnam because they needed bodies to send them to this grinder, basically, right? So they have less time to send them over. So these sadistic, evil drill sergeants, they're not doing it out of wanting to kill you and hating you. They're doing it because they know that your life is dependent on what you learn. And they have less time to do it. So they're going as hard and as intense as they can. But this is what Oscar's going to, right? So Oscar's going from living with his mom. I don't want to imply that he's a mama's boy, but you can just kind of picture him going out and making money as dad's not around. So he's going to have this love for her, and that's his only concern in life. So now you're in barracks with a whole bunch of dudes from all over the country, and your whole life is being held by these crazy guys in their brown rounds, their DI hats, the drill instructors that are making your life a living hell.
Yeah.
And just like you remember from the movie, right? Just physical intensity, just screaming in your face, learn your weapons. The military is the great equalizer. It's the great meritocracy. If you're filthy rich and you're an intellectual, or you're dirt poor and you're scum on the streets, once you get there, none of that matters, because money can't help you road march.
Completely equal.
Money can't help you shoot. You're based on your merit, right? I mean, there's going to be people that get over and stuff and kiss ass, but for the rest of it, if you do your job well, it doesn't matter where you came from, it doesn't matter the color of your skin, it doesn't matter anything, because you're an achiever and you're a doer, and people are going to want to follow you, right?
Yeah.
So
is that something beautiful about the military?
that's the best thing about the military there is, man. Like I said, there's whatever you are on the outside doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to me. You can't shoot, you're worthless. Get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
You can't road march, you're worthless. No one cares how much money
you can have a rich guy coming from all like the classiest I'm better than you, going with a poor guy. Poor guy performs.
Absolutely. And
this
then,
guy ain't shit.
Right. You're
That's
not shit,
awesome.
and you can't say shit to me.
Yeah.
And there's rank and time and grade and all that kinds of stuff. But on that level, it's you and what you bring to the table. And everybody's equal physically, I mean, that's not a literal thing. Obviously, we have our differences. But if hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard, as they say, right? If you're in shape and stuff, but you have a weak heart because you've never been tested and the other guy's pushing harder than you, hey, you're still not worth shit,
Yeah.
Those big muscles aren't going to help you either.
And then a lot of these people are coming
it.
from poverty or coming from a trying time or coming from family problems are probably harder,
If you've been working, your whole life, you're going to be a lot better off than the guy that has not been.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so he's going to graduate basic training. He's going to thrive there, just like a lot of these other dudes. And his MOS is a machine gunner, essentially.
Now, is this the worst type of boot camp?
I would say so.
You think
at this
so,
time,
like historically?
I mean, it's arguable, and you can always go back. There's this thing. Back when I went through the academy or when I was in boot camp, it was everybody think
so it's a rose-colored
if
thing.
you go far enough back, it's gonna sound like they were stabbing people in front of you or something.
Yeah.
But I think Vietnam was kind of the crux of when it went from
because it was stressful for these.
Well, it was stressful, but they had kind of honed what they were doing. So even in World War II, it was intensely hard, because you're going into combat, you're dying. But they didn't have. It was a lot of hodgepodge, like
and a lot of people are dying at this point. So
right.
The levels turned up.
Right.
I would imagine.
So in Vietnam now they have it almost down to a science. We have this week we're doing this week we're doing that. We need to get X, Y, and Z done, and we're going to do it this way. We're going to break you down for this red phase and get you over here. Coupled with it's not like now where there's political correctness or anything like that. So you have that meeting of those two things that's going to make it pretty intense there. Not somewhere I'd want to be.
Yeah, really, man. Especially in that time, knowing that you're, like he said, Oscar knows he's going to fight.
Right.
He's thrown into the fire.
Yeah, if you didn't want to fight, you don't join the Marine Corps, period.
Yeah.
So he ends up graduating. He makes PFC in October. And then on October 15th, 1968, he's sent to Vietnam, which is just like you'd expect, right?
So what month did he enlist?
He enlisted in April of 1968.
And by the end of the year?
Yeah, so by the end of the same year, by the end of 1968, he's in Vietnam. And 1968, 69 are the most intense years of the Vietnam, the American portion of the Vietnam War, where we had the most casualties.
Wow.
So when he gets over there, he's made an ammunition man. Some of his paperwork listed him as a mortarman. I don't know if he actually trained as a mortarman or if those were if that was a mistake. But he's an ammo man. So like we talked about, a machine gunner is supposed to be a three-man crew, right?
Right.
You have your actual gunner, you have your assistant gunner who's helping load and change the barrels out, and then you have your ammo bear who's carrying everything. So he's listed as an ammunition man, which is going to be that ammo bear there, right? He's going to be in the 2nd Battalion, 7th Marines, part of the 1st Marine Division. So they're going to be all the way up. Remember, we've talked about Vietnam. It's, a country split into two. Right in the center, you have the DMZ. It's called I Corps, that area. That's right where he's going to be at. So these guys are right on the border where the enemy is. And we never push north. We don't get to do that, but they can come down and attack us. So he's outside of Da Nang. Have you ever heard of Da Nang?
Yep.
Yeah. So he's right outside of Da Nang. And Da Nang is one of the busiest airports in the world. This is where all the supplies are going to come in and out. This is where troops coming in, ammunition coming in, everything coming in. So that's going to make it a hot target, right?
Absolutely.
It's a big buildup. I think that's where most of the Marines in the country was up in Da Nang. They were spread all over, but that's going to be where there's at. So because of this, they're going to just be frequently attacked. It's just going to be a regular occurrence, right?
Trying to get the supply lines?
Just trying to hit them where they are.
Yeah.
If you got bodies coming in, you're going to have untrained people coming in, you're going to have supplies coming in, you're going to have things that we can explode.
So whenever you hit something, you're hurting us.
Just like we talked about with the supply dumps and everything else blowing up in the other episodes, that's where they're going to go. So this is kind of that life he's going to be living in. And they're just outside Da Nang. On the flip side, Da Nang's heavily populated. So again, like Full Metal Jacket, when they're out in the city in Saigon, you're going to have that. So you're going to have this dichotomy of the city life, getting to go travel around and the booze and the girls. And then when you're out in the jungle, you're going to be in that miserable tropical monsoon climate, which is hot and humid. You're all the way up in the center. Busy area, but this is going to be that 80% humidity. This is going to be that elephant grass. This is going to be that wetlands. In the dry seasons, it's going to be very dry. And the wet seasons, it's just going to be pouring. Again, like Forrest Gump. I like to use those movie references. So a kid from Arizona, right?
Yeah, dude, not used to that.
You can imagine finding yourself in this tropical climate where you're wet 100% of the time during those certain months. Your skin is never going to get dry. Your feet are never going to get dry. When you're out in the bush, you're walking through the wetlands. You're walking through the rice paddies. You're feeling that elephant grass cut you up. You're feeling the leeches, like you said, and the bugs and things. Your gear's just going to be, your straps are going to be digging into you. You're going to be getting those sores from your metal straps because he's an ammo bearer, so he's carrying that. Damn. And it's like when you get a cut on the inside of your mouth and it never heals, it's going to be like that. You're going to have cuts on your body,
everywhere.
And they're just going to be wet, and they're never, ever, ever going to heal properly, right? So that's kind of that miserable atmosphere he's going to find himself in. And you kind of got to wonder, is since we don't know about him, is he thinking, what the hell did I get myself into? Or is he thinking, again,
whatever, I'm here.
Hey, this is what it is. Yeah. I can do this. Like with a lot of other people, though, this combat, it's going to breed a real tight camaraderie with people, right? So you're going to get real close with people you're around. And he's going to make good friends with his buddy, who's a Lance Corporal by the name of Payne, who's a 19-year-old kid. And they're basically described as doing everything together. They're always seen together. They go out on the town together. They go visit a local orphanage together. You're going to hear that quite a lot in a lot of these stories. And again, that's not bullshit. It's not propaganda. That's what a lot of these troops were doing. They knew they're human beings, right? So they sympathize for kids. They empathize for these kids.
Why were there so many orphanages?
Because it's a country that's been at war for generations.
So there's just parentless houses everywhere.
All the men are off to fight and die either for the North or the South, and they're getting killed, and the women aren't, going to fare much better. So the kids are just going to be left to their own devices. And not only that, you have disease and you have everything else. So it's just a hard style of living. So as Westerners, as Americans, they're seeing that and they're trying to do something about it.
Sympathetic to that, for sure.
And you can imagine someone who has little brothers and sisters seeing these kids and seeing that in them.
It's funny when you go in a time of war, man. A kid is a kid no matter where you're at.
Exactly. Yeah, that humanity is going to come back real quick despite everything else. A kid crying or something is going to kind of turn it on pretty quick. You have to be pretty jaded not to. So that's what they're going to be doing. They're going to be giving their extra candy and their extra food, and they're going to be visiting. And by doing that, they're bonding even more, right?
Yeah.
There's no friendship like friendship in combat, and there's no friendship like friendship in these extremes. Like you're not take away all the bullets and take away all the machine guns, just seeing these orphanages and seeing how these kids are living and traveling along the countryside and seeing all this stuff, that's going to bond. You got buddies that, they went on a trip to Europe together and now they're thick as
Yeah.
Now imagine if they were in Vietnam in combat zone.
Yeah.
So think about those kinds of things.
The intensity of the friendships.
Think about, my back's sore and I'm tired. Here, I'll grab your ruck for you. You're doubling your load to take it off me.
Sleeping back to back.
Sleeping back to back. And that's an everyday occurrence for these type of guys, right? So that's the kind of stuff
they're all
that they're
suffering
doing.
at the same times together.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's going to be doing this. And again, the way the firefights would work, these generally weren't going to be big pitched combat battles. These are going to be you're moving along and you take fire. You're in the middle of the rice paddy. So what do? You hit the ground. Now you're, sliding along in the water. You're miserable. You don't know where it's coming from. You return fire. You call in artillery. You push forward. You bound forward. And then the enemy's gone. It's just frustrating daily war of attrition. You're pushing through the bush. The tanglefoot's grabbing on your legs. It's hard to walk. It takes you all the exhaustion out of you to walk 100 meters, and then somebody gets shot and they go down, and you got to drag them to safety, right? And everybody's trying to pull them back, and the helicopters are trying to come in, and you got 18, 19, 20-year-old kids whose life depends on another 18, 19, 20-year-old kid to call in the coordinates properly and do that 9-line medevac and get the helicopter pilot in there who's 21 years old.
Everything's got to be
fly in
perfect.
and risk his life. All these things have to be perfect just for you to survive, and that's what they're dealing with.
Man.
So Oscar's going to end up... he's in Vietnam for about 10 months. So on February 23rd, 1969, he's still going to be in Vietnam.
A couple months later, right? 4 months?
Yeah, so he'll have been there for 10 months. He's about 2 months shy of going home. And during this time, the Vietnamese launched what was called Mini-Tet, the Mini-Tet Offensive.
Yeah.
And remember we talked about the Tet Offensive in earlier episodes? In 1968, the Vietnamese launched an all-out attack on every major American base and like all these sites at one time. It shocked the consciousness of America, so they did it again in 1969. So this was a lot smaller, but it was a giant general offensive. They attacked over 100 sites throughout Vietnam.
At the same time.
At the same time. So,
hard
normally...
to direct stuff
exactly.
in that case, right?
And you're not getting any support if everybody's under attack. 209 Americans were killed in action on February 23rd alone, just on this day.
Damn.
So on this day... Payne and Austin find themselves, they're on what's called an LPOP, or an observation post, listening post. So they're out in the jungle basically just looking for observation, right, trying to see what's going on. They don't realize the scope of this attack or the enormity of this attack. Da Nang itself is being attacked. There's a rocket attack. They ended up destroying 450,000 gallon fuel tank at Da Nang. So there's these huge explosions. There's all this stuff going on. So again, if you're in trouble, nobody's coming because you need to defend yourself.
Do they know that this is happening?
They don't know. They don't.
Okay.
So
because they're in the bush.
Right. They're in the bush. They're going to be getting sporadic reports. They'll probably have heard for a while, hey, there's movement going on, but they don't know what it is because you're always hearing these reports.
Yeah.
So the morning's going to open. Like I said, he's been in combat for 10 months, or he's been in Vietnam for 10 months. So he's been dealing with this kind of stuff. Him and his buddy, Payne, and some other Marines, they're sitting there, you can imagine them screwing around and joking, and all of a sudden, the world opens up, right? They start taking fire, so they start doing their job. They start laying down fire back. The enemy's going to be attacking with RPGs, those rocket-propelled grenades, rifles, grenades, and satchel charges. The enemy is trying to overwhelm with force. So the American position, the Marines that are there, they're very small and they're very isolated. They have their rifles, they might have mortars, they have whatever they can call in, but you're not getting airstrikes because there's airstrikes going.
And that was what they needed in Vietnam, right?
Exactly. But your airstrikes are going to be protecting the airbase at Da Nang, so they're kind of on their own. And the chaos of battle is always going to be there, right? An RPG is a terrifying thing. You see an RPG explode behind you, it doesn't matter if there's 1, 2, or 50 guys, you're going to feel like you're getting overwhelmed. But in this case, they are getting overwhelmed. The enemy's pushing forward, so they're in their dug-in position. So Austin's doing as he's trained, right? He's in a good covered and concealed position, and he starts firing back with his rifle. His machine gunner's opening up on the side, and he's firing his rifle, and he's going to be keeping that ammo feeding just like he should. The enemy's so strong, and they're so overwhelming that they start sweeping the position. The enemy starts coming around. They're flanking them, basically, right? And that's a nightmare because a real enemy... It's not like the movies where you just charge each other. You're trying to flank.
What does flanking mean?
Going around the side of.
Okay.
So
and coming up behind or coming on the side?
Coming on the side. So when we fight, we'll have 2 units. The first unit will stay down, so you have to fight me, and then this one's going to come around and sweep, and then this unit's going to shift fire and then lift fire, and then these ones are going to sweep across before you even know it and take your back. Right. So you're always trying to cut that angle and get that flank. So that's what the enemy's doing at this time. So these Marines find themselves in this desperate fight. They're trying to hold their ground. They're trying to push back the enemy. They're trying to stay alive. Austin's only goal right now is to look down the sights of his rifle, find the enemy, and kill them. But while he's doing that, he looks over and he sees a wounded Marine. He sees somebody get hit, and he sees him goes down, and he sees him lose consciousness. And they're behind this covered and concealed position, and he sees this Marine. He's about 20 yards away or a little less, and he's out there, and he's unconscious. And Austin knows if nobody gets to this guy, he's going to die.
Yeah.
The enemy's going to kill him, and they're going to do it intentionally, and they're going to try to overwhelm him, and they might even take his body. And you can just almost feel that gut-wrenching feeling when he looks and he realizes it's his best friend. It's Payne, right? So as he's laying there firing and he looks over to his right, he can see Payne. And the other guys see him too. And everybody wants to get him, but you can't get him because if you get up and you expose yourself and you go over that parapet, you're dead too. And if you go over that and you get hit, your buddy's got to get you down.
So, and then it puts your other buddies in a
exactly. And then if you get killed outright, that's one less person, right? That's one less person. So Payne's going to keep. Austin's going to keep firing. Austin's going to keep firing his rifle, but he's got Payne over there in his sights, and he's, this gut-wrenching feeling inside you. That's my friend. That's that guy that I've been with for months in the bush. That's that guy. I know about his family. He knows about mine. I've been sharing these stories.
Saved my life
exactly.
Before.
How many times have we shared food or shared socks, which is even more important? So this is when he has that decision. He knows if he leaves the safety of his hole, he's a very good chance he can die. But if he doesn't, he knows for a fact that Payne is going to die, and Payne's probably going to die horribly. So everything inside your human nature is going to make you want to stay down. But everything inside Austin makes him want to get to his friend. So Austin stands up and he charges across the open ground. And as he does so, there's bullets whipping past him. There's rifles whipping past him. There's machine gun fire whipping past him. But he's single-minded. He's going towards Payne. And right as Austin reaches Payne, he sees the enemy, and the enemy throws a grenade. And that grenade's going to land on the opposite side of Payne. So Austin's running, Payne's in front of him, and the grenade lands on the other side. So just like we've talked about several times on this show, right? He's going to make that instantaneous decision. He's going to make that decision that no matter how much he loves his mom, his brothers, and his sisters, in that moment, he loves his friend, and he's got to do something for his friend. He knows he can't pull him away. He's unconscious. That dead weight of that body is going to be too much. So with every last bit of strength he has in this dead sprint of a run, he dives over Payne, and he covers him with his body, and he puts himself in between that grenade and between Austin's body. And when he does so, Payne's body. When he does so, that grenade explodes, and that shrapnel rips Austin's body apart. So Austin's wearing a flak vest, but that concussion and that grenade is just going to tear his legs and his back and everything to shreds. Payne's actually unconscious. He's never even going to know that Austin did this for him at this point, right? But Austin chooses to give that last full measure of devotion for his friend and give his life willingly to protect his buddy. A grenade is going to have to kill you, but somehow Austin survived, right? Wow. So Austin was able to rise up to his knees, and he's covered with blood at this point. He's in shock. The bullets are still whipping around. The enemy's trying to kill him. They're trying to kill Austin. They're trying to kill everybody that's there.
Yeah.
They're still putting down fire. His friends can't help him, and now he's throbbing. He's feeling this intensity. He's feeling over 100 pieces of shrapnel in his body. He's taking account, how bad am I? How bad is he? He ignores his wounds, and he stands up. He doesn't make any attempt to help himself because Payne is still laying there. So despite his grievous wounds, despite the fact that he's likely dying, he moves towards Austin again, and he tries to drag him off the trail. He tries to get him back. As he does so, an enemy comes around, and he sees him raise his rifle. As he raises his rifle, Austin, for the second time in less than a minute, makes a life-altering decision, right? So that first decision, like we said, sometimes it's instantaneous. This is the second time. He sees that enemy raise that rifle, and he knows he doesn't have a weapon to protect himself with. He doesn't have a weapon to protect his buddy with. All he has is his body. So right before the enemy soldier fires his AK-47 7.62 assault rifle, to use the term assault rifle, Austin makes that decision again, that his friend's life is worth more than his, or his friend's life is at least worth the attempt. So once again, he throws his body down on top of Payne, and he covers him with his body. And as he does so, the enemy fires his 7.62 rifle, and he rips him open, and he ends up hitting Austin multiple times, and Austin dies covering his friend's body. The Marines are able to overcome. As they're watching this, they're watching 21-year-old Oscar Austin get ripped apart by the bullets. They're seeing him getting hit with this spray. This is going to inspire them, right? They see this act of heroism, and they're able to regain that initiative, that break in the combat. They're able to put the rounds downrange and drive off the enemy. Wow. Unfortunately, it was too late for Austin, but as a result of his actions, Payne survived. So they were able to get Payne back, treat his wounds, bring him back to consciousness, and he later learned what happened. Austin, unfortunately, again, was hit with over 100 pieces of shrapnel, and he was hit with multiple rounds from that AK-47, knowingly on 2 occasions within that minute that his life was going to be ended, but he had to do something, and he did, and he was able to be successful in his mission.
Man.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
So Payne actually survived, and like we said, you have that survivor's guilt. With him, he was struggling to be worthy. You know, what can I do? How do I repay this debt, right? So fortunately, Austin was awarded the Medal of Honor. His comrades that saw what happened, they thought, you know, again, like we say, this is the most noble thing that we've ever seen. So he was sent home. His body was sent home to Phoenix. He was given a military funeral, and his mother was presented with the Medal of Honor.
Oh, so he got it there. Well, he didn't have to wait for Clinton or anything.
No. This was
beautiful.
Yeah, this was in April 20th, 1970. He was given his family. His mother was given that Medal of Honor, and Payne was there to greet them and to see that Medal of Honor put around his mother's neck.
Imagine how intense that was.
Well, he said he struggled. He said he didn't know how they were going to react to him. Right?
Yeah.
What are they going to say to me? When this should be their son. This should be their son, and I'm here, right? I'm here instead of them. But they said, or Payne said, when Austin's family saw him, they immediately embraced him and they started to cry. You know, and they were proud of him, and you know they understood because that could have been the other way around, because that's what friends do for each other in these combat situations, right? That's what it could have been. But Austin chose to give his life, and because of that, you know, they respect and they honor that decision. And Payne ended up becoming a naval officer and served in the Navy, and then he ended up becoming a counselor for prisoners. So he tried to do the best to live his life as a tribute. And every year he drives from California to Washington, D.C. to visit the wall and see Oscar Austin's name there. They named a couple other things for him, so he got his small tributes. But even Marines out there, if any Marines are listening, I challenge you, how many of you guys know the name Oscar Palmer Austin prior to this, right?
Yeah.
And we know other Marines. I mean, even Jack Lucas, we talked about Jack Lucas. He jumped on the grenades. God bless him. He deserves to be remembered, but so does Oscar Austin, right?
Yes.
So does a man who left his fortified position. Everything inside you.
Left his single mother, brothers, sisters first.
Right. To serve his country. In a time...
joining a branch that is guaranteeing you're going to be in the fight.
Right. And this isn't a time when you join the military, everyone's going to pat you on the back and give you free Applebee's.
Yeah.
This is when you're going to get spit on and you're going to get treated like trash and you're going to get told you're a fucking idiot.
It's not
and everything
glorious
else.
like World War II, you know, where people are sending you off all nice, right?
Right. But he had something inside him that made him want to serve. And part of that was trying to make a better life for his family. And he had something inside him that made him want to be the best, which, again, he joined the Marine Corps, right? Yeah. He didn't try to join the National Guard, and that's no disrespect to the National Guard, but that was one of the things people would do at the time to get out of trying to go to combat. He didn't try to join the Air Force. He didn't go to Canada. He didn't try to enlist in the Army. He joined the branch of the military that he knew for a fact he was going to end up in combat. You're a naive fool if you didn't think you were at that time, and he chose to do that.
That's incredible.
He didn't find his way out. He didn't find his way to be, you know, a clerk or something else. He did everything he could to end up where he was. When he was in Vietnam, he was doing the right thing. You know, he's making these bonds with people. He's trying to do his best to better the people around him, those Vietnamese civilians, you know, his partners, his friends, and everything. And then, like I said, when it came time for combat, he would have been well within his rights to stay in his hole and put rounds down range, right?
Yep.
And most of us, I think, would be able to live with ourselves if your buddy died to say,
even a bad...
there's nothing I could do. I had to wait till the fight was over and we would get to him.
And that would be understandable.
But his urge to save his friend overcame and overpowered his urge to save himself.
It has to be such an overwhelming thing because it's going against every instinct.
Right. You talked about on another episode jumping out of a plane on
your body's not even considering it.
Right. I think
most people would just stay down and it wouldn't even cross their mind to do that. You'd be like, oh shit, he went down. My better job is to stay here.
Or he's, especially seeing him unconscious, he's dead anyways. I can't get to him.
You can justify it.
Exactly.
You know?
And again, like we said, it's not even that much to justify because it's reasonable, right? But seeing him, you can almost imagine every time he pulls the trigger and he looking at the enemy, looking over and seeing him there and just feeling that weighing on him. And every time he pulls the trigger and he looks over and he's thinking about the time we went to Da Nang, or every time he pulls the
knows
trigger,
what they did
right?
together?
You know all those
what I mean?
things, or all those late night talks, or these buddies you find in combat. My friends from the Army that I might not have talked to for years, they're still so dear to me. You know, my good friends Town and Davis, even and Ross and all these dudes. You know, Smith. You hear me talk about them a lot. They have such an impression on you. To have to watch them die, or to have to watch them be wounded,
unbearable.
I remember one of my good buddies, Courtois. I saw him. We were on one position, they were on another position. Grenade came up and hit him in the back, and I watched them carry him down. I had to stay in my position, but you could see the blood pouring out of his body. You could see his skin. You could physically watch him turning from his normal tan color, watching the skin fade to the waxiness as they were taking him down to the Bradley, and just watching the life basically eke out of him, and you're just helpless to do anything about it. And
Did he pass?
No, he survived.
Oh,
he's way too damn tough to die.
Yeah.
He Courtois, if you ever hear his, after he took the grenade, they carried him down. The enemy was still in the area, and some of the Iraqis who were anti-American started clapping, kind of laughing that he got shot.
Yeah.
So before they put him in the Bradley, he got off the stretcher on his feet and flipped everybody off,
that's awesome.
just to show him that he wasn't beaten. And then I think he almost lost it on the way in the back to the cache. But yeah, Courtois is way too ornery and tough to get killed by a little grenade. He's still got quite a few pieces of shrapnel in him too, as a lot of my other buddies do.
Yeah.
Again, Town was wounded 3 times over there, and on one of them I didn't see it, but I heard him on the radio, or I heard on the radio what was going on, and it just tears you up inside, and you just want to be able to get to that person, and you can't, right?
Yeah.
And that's the kind of things that the American fighting man and the fighting man in general has to go through, and these are the kinds of things these things are going to see.
Right.
And when I was doing research for this too, one of the things that was interesting, but it kind of just hit me wrong. One of the few newspaper articles I found about it said, funeral for victim of Vietnam War today, about Oscar Austin when he died. And the first thing I thought was, he's not a victim.
Yeah.
This is not a victim. A victim is something that happens to somebody, right? It happens to you. Oscar Palmer Austin was somebody who was a doer. Oscar Palmer Austin was somebody who stepped up. Oscar Palmer Austin was somebody who stepped into the breach, like the cliche, here am I, send me, right?
Yeah.
Somebody's got to go. I'm going to go. That's not a victim. That's a warrior. That's somebody who is willing to step in. Had he never thrown his body in front of his friend's pain, he'd be a hero. Had he never thrown his body in front of him a second time, he'd be a hero, right? Because he chose. He had all the outs in the world, but he chose to join the Marine Corps. That's not a victim. He joined the infantry. I mean, he didn't necessarily have a choice in that, but there's always a way to get out of it. There's always a way to find those other things. And it irked me so much that's like, he's not a victim. Yes, he's
a badass.
Right.
He's everything that Americans should strive to
exactly.
be.
Fate dealt him a terrible hand,
Right.
and it took his life away, and he didn't get to live with the honors that he should have. But he's not a victim. He's a hero. He's a doer, and he is somebody who saved somebody else.
Who every other guy in this country should strive to be.
Exactly.
Somebody like that. You know what I mean? That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Oscar Palmer Austin.
And like I said, look him up. We'll have some pictures of him on there, the few that are on there. But this is deserves just as much glory and recognition as anybody else who's ever earned the Medal of Honor, and anybody else who's jumped on a grenade specifically, like we talked about with Tim Noe in our first episode and one of our things. It's amazing to me that somebody who earned the Medal of Honor can still be forgotten.
It's crazy to me.
It's amazing to me that when we look at these people, and I'm still, I've been obsessed with this my whole life, and I'm still learning about these people, and I'm going, wow, I had no idea all this background. And we've talked about it before.
How do these stories get slept on?
Right. And we've talked about it before with the ones that aren't recognized. Had the guys not seen him this happen and he just went down, his story would have never been remembered either. So how many other guys are out there?
Dude, there's probably just countless.
Right. And including guys that are walking around. So those veterans you see, wearing their veterans hats, they might have the medals and you might not know
These are the people that, all the tough guys you see, or all the badass dudes that you see walking around with their chest out. These are the guys that those people want to be.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's really what it comes down to. The guy that died on the battlefield in our medic episode, he had already received the Medal of Honor. Mm-hmm. He's a freaking hero, dude. At that
John
time,
Barcelone.
At that time in our country, that guy could have just gone on a tour and got girls and praise, and he was on.
And that's what he did do.
Sand,
he was on a war bonds tour, and it just preyed on him too much. He said, "I can't do this." And the quote is, "I'm staying with my boys." Yeah,
that's not even going back to regular life. That is going back to like a hero's tour and just living like a celebrity. And he was on the black sulfur smelling sand. Like to me, that when I heard that, I was like, these are just the kind of dudes that should be celebrated, man. It's crazy that these stories. I don't know why they died, because they're better than any movie you've ever seen. You know what I mean?
Why they're forgotten? You mean?
Not forgotten. Yeah. Why are they forgotten?
Well, that's why we're trying to do our part here, I guess.
But what do you think it is? Is it just like the humility of military people?
A lot of it's the humility. A lot of the Vietnam. There's a book called Stolen Valor, how the Vietnam veterans were robbed, or how the Vietnam generation was robbed of its heroes. You look at Joe Hooper, who's the most decorated veteran of Vietnam. His exploits are as amazing as anybody's. You look at a lot of these guys, Howard and Thornton and all these SEALs. The media was against them, essentially. The country, it was not cool to like the military, so these guys were hushed up and forgotten in this time. In World War II and stuff, there was just a lot more of them, and a lot of them just went on with their daily lives, and they were kind of forgotten about,
It's just crazy to me, dude. It's crazy that there hasn't been 50 movies. Like we haven't come across anybody that's like, oh, yeah, that's that movie.
Right.
Not one,
Not
dude.
yet, yeah.
Well, yeah, not yet. There's one coming. But, I mean, you would just think if you're a movie director that writes, I mean, these are already written for you. Yeah,
and we're going to do a big Audie Murphy episode. But like I said, even someone like Audie Murphy, who's well known for being a hero, I don't think people know the half of it. I don't think they know what these guys went through. I think they know him
because he ended up in Hollywood.
Right.
You know what I mean? But they don't know.
And they don't know all the intricacies and all the things that these guys
I don't even
through.
know. I know a little bit that you've told me, but it's just, man, there's these... Pick any of the ones that we've covered so far, there's a movie in every single one of them.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And again, like I said, even without the Medal of Honor action, think about Oscar. Think about Oscar Austin. Think about a Vietnam or a Marine, a 20-year-old, 21-year-old Marine in Vietnam,
guy growing up in the civil rights era, dude.
Right, from Nacogdoches, Texas,
to fight for that country that's going through that kind of turmoil in that time when there was probably a lot of racial stuff going on even in the military.
There was a lot in the military, and there were problems in the military, but the Marines have a saying that I like. There's only two colors, and there's only two colors in the Marines: dark Marines and dark green and light green, because they don't care about your race.
Right?
I mean, and obviously that's people come in with their preconceptions. So if you're racist, you're going to stay racist.
Yeah.
But for everything else, again, it's that meritocracy, and that's anybody who's ever been in the military. Everybody knows it. You're going to have the guy in the barracks party wearing a cowboy hat and cowboy boots from Oklahoma, hanging out and sharing his drink with the freaking gangster from South Central LA. It's just how it is. It's just how it is. And everybody, and you're going to hear more freaking racial slurs than you've ever heard in your life, but everyone's laughing when they're doing it, and you're getting along with each other, and you're hugging and you're kissing, and you die for each other, right? So it's awesome. It's a cool thing. So Oscar Palmer Austin, like I said, he's a bit forgotten. So what we'd like you guys to do, if you guys can help share and spread the word on what we're trying to do here, we just want to get more people to be aware of these people and to know about them. I'd like for everybody to appreciate every American who ever served their country and everybody who ever was in uniform, but we can start with at least these major people that gave so much and they did so much.
When you see a negative story, share this positive one.
Right.
Let's start there, man. I mean, right?
Yeah.
That'd be the way to go. Mm-hmm. Good one, man.
So cool. Yeah. Appreciate you guys watching again. Give it a like, give it a share. If you guys have any comments, I'd love to have some discussion. If you guys have any ideas or anybody you want future episodes, if you guys want more Marines, let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to just go back to being an Army dog, I think. So.
All right. We'll be back.
All right, guys.
Later.